Hello, my name is Nigel Griffiths. I work in the Advanced Technology Centre in the UK, part of IBM Europe. In this movie, we're going to look at system hardening the easy way by using a tool called the AIX Security Expert. When we actually come to run it, it's called aixpert. This runs on AIX 5.3 and AIX 6. Now, when it comes to systems administration, there are some key duties that all systems administrators have to do. First of all, they need to back up the data on the important machines, maybe all machines. And if they don't do that, then I think basically they should be given the sack. The next thing is they have to make the services available to their user departments, so there's some monitoring involved there. Thirdly, there is security. Hardening the operating system so that it's very much harder for somebody to get access when they shouldn't to a particular machine. And there's a growing concern about compliance. We'll look at that in a moment. Now, in the past, system hardening has been extremely hard work. First of all, there's lots of different areas. For example, the user password control to make sure that the passwords are difficult enough to make hacking into the system very hard. Root access in particular is very sensitive. We've got things like monitoring access failures to see if we can detect people trying to get into the system. Lots of network settings and disabling unnecessary services can be quite tricky to do. And then we have to do auditing to actually prove that we have the system secure and nobody has actually got into the machine. And how is this done? Well, in the past, some people sit down and hand type a whole load of commands in, probably working from a script or an official documentation. Some people are using home-written scripts to set and test the security is set up the way that they want it. Some people have brought in extra packages to actually do this for them. And with hundreds of machines or perhaps thousands of logical partitions, it can be difficult to ensure that the same settings are used across all the production machines and maybe the other in-house machines as well. Now, a little bit of background to explain some of these terms. After the world-famous alleged irregularities at Enron and WorldCom and Tyco, the US government created an agency that wrote the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This covers the mandatory financial reporting for companies. There's 11 chapters in here, but it is written in general business terms, not in IT sort of terms. Then we have CORBIT, which is the Common Object for Information and Related Technology. And this is guidelines and best practice, but again, it's not platform specific. It's not a script or tool that you can actually run. We have for AIX this aixpert command. And this implements the recommendations of both the SOX and CORBIT documents for AIX in scripts and tools that are run on an AIX system. Now, when writing aixpert, the security team in the AIX labs consulted general security experts, and they also called in customers that are experts in security, particularly the large banks. I gave a talk to the AIX user group in the UK and started explaining this foil, and they said, stop, we know all this stuff. We were actually on the committee that put the recommendations that are implemented into the AIX tool. Now, I need to point out that the SOX and CORBIT are US American government standards, but as all companies in the world like to deal with America, they have to conform to these standards as well. And it's a good thing that we all stick to the same set of standards, because that lets us cooperate quite a lot better. Let's move on then to the aixpert program itself. There are 5 ways to access it, and we'll quickly go through these. There's one that we're actually going to use in a demonstration. Well, of course, SMITI has been enhanced, and we can set the high, medium, low, default, or SOX CORBIT standards. We can undo things, and we can check that we're conforming to the standard at the moment. We can also use the P-console that's available now and getting more and more popular. It is based off the same database that SMIT uses, so it all looks exactly the same. Then there's Director 6. From Director 6 we can access the P-console. Officially it's known as the IBM Systems Director Console for AIX, so that makes sense. We can also use websm to get to AIXpert. If we do that, then we actually get some more information in here. We can actually see all the rules at each of the levels before we actually set them, and we can switch them on and off. Now, we're not going to cover websm here. Either you are already running it and you can go and have a look, or you're probably not running it and you won't want to just install websm to get this feature working. We'll, however, look at the command line, because as well as the basic operations, there are some more things we can do, like saving the settings file, making changes, some customization for our particular use. Then we can use that customized file across all our machines. If we look at the various levels now, high security is when you're on the internet, so you're in a highly hostile environment. In particular, Telnet and FTP are completely banned because they're the ideal hacker targets. Also, when you go to high security, if you're using particular services, like on the network, then they will be okay and allowed. Other ports will actually be blocked automatically for you. On the medium setting then, this is for inside the corporate firewall. You can use Telnet and FTP. If you're worried about that you have hackers inside your company, of course you want to go to high level. Low level security switches on a few features and allows you to get to a higher security than the default, and the default is what comes with AIX as standard, as installed. Maybe it's a little bit impolite, but default is actually lower than lower security. By default, AIX comes as fully open to let you access the machine and set it up any way you want. There's also that fifth setting of the SOX call bit, which is recommended for compliance. So anybody doing financial transactions may want to have a look at that particular setting. Underlying aixpert, there's a series of files. Now, you don't directly look at these or interfere with them, but it's good to know that they're there. The first one, the aixpert all.xml file, this has all the rules and commands and parameters used by aixpert. We'll find there's a way to extract the information from that file if you want to customize it. When you actually apply a setting, then that's copied to the applied file. aixpert logs things to a particular log file. You can go and look at the log file to see what's happening. And if we apply a level and we don't like it, we can do an undo operation, and in the details to actually do the undo are actually in the undo file, as you might have guessed. Okay, so here we are on the machine, and we'll have a look at the AIX version. It's level -S. So I'm on AIX 6.1, technology level 2 with a couple of service packs. Now, aixpert has been available for a number of years actually with AIX 5.3. The functionalities we see here should be roughly the same as we get on 5.3 technology level 9. But if you go back different levels of AIX 5.3, you might find the functions slightly different. But it has been out for 2 or 3 years now. Now, if we just type in aixpert, we'll get the details of what we can do with the command. Now, we can see at the top here we have high, medium, low. You know what those mean. There's another version of it down here where we can use H, M, L, D and S as shorthand. I find those rather confusing, but effectively those two commands are equivalent. We have -C here. This will do the check. -U will do the undo. The -D option gives us a data definition, rather odd output that I don't really understand. And the final one, the -F option, allows us to apply our own custom-made file with our particular favorite settings. Now, the first thing we want to do then is actually go to low level, and we'll see how that actually works and what we get as output. Well, it's going through that rules file for the low settings, the low rules, and we've got a warning there. It's a prerequisite of TCB, and then we have a list thereof. We've added 43 rules and we've had 1 failure. Now remember these rules, there are no hard and fast, this is what you must run. This is our best guess from our security experts and what you want to do. Now in this case we have to decide whether you want to apply that rule and fix the problem, or whether you want to remove the rule. Now as it happens, the default is that we're going to check whether the trusted computer base is installed with AIX. So here we failed because it's not installed, and if we had installed it and we have to go back and do a complete reinstall of AIX to have that feature, we will then fail for another reason, saying that, by the way, you have TCB installed. So this is really a warning message here, but you might find that you don't want these warning messages. Okay then, what we're going to do is actually take a copy of the master file, the aixpert all.xml file, and create our own personal copy, and we'll remove this particular trusted computer base rule so that we no longer get the error message. This is the command we're going to use. We've got aixpert -l low because we're going to low level. That's -n and -o option, and we're going to save this file that we're going to create, extract, into etc security aixpert. Now of course I'm root user, so I've got access to etc security, and we're going to put it into custom. This is where we change the default rules. We save them in here, and we're going to put them in my settings.xml. The actual master file is in etc security aixpert core, C-O-R-E, aixpert all.xml. So we'll just run that now. Really nice and quick, and we can go and edit that file. And before we actually go there, remember that we got a prerequisite rule here, Prereq TCB, and we've got another rule here. The L here is for the low security, and TCP update rule. So we'll have a look at those two items in the rule file, and we'll decide what we want to do about them. Now this is an XML file which is particularly painful for humans to read, although computers find it easier to parse this and get the data. We may have an editor in later versions that will make this cleaner to actually understand. If you're familiar with HTML, XML, then we'll understand that this is the beginning of a paragraph and the name of the paragraph in here, and we can see this line here is the end of that paragraph because there is a slash character here. So this is a particular paragraph with a particular name. In here we can see that we have a rule type, then we have a rule description in here, and then we have a rule command in here. So this is the command it's actually going to run here, and these are any arguments to this particular command. There are none, so there's nothing actually in here. So let's have a look for the particular ones that were causing us a problem. And here we go. This is the first one. This is a prerequisite rule. So this is actually called from another rule, and it gives you a description of what's actually happening here. It's the rule for trusted computer base, checks whether it is enabled or not. So this will fail one way or the other and give us a warning regardless of what happens. Let's then look for the second rule. As this is a prereq, we could switch this off by looking at the real rule. Okay, here we go, and the entry is here. So it's got a particular name. It's here, LLS for low level security. It's going to check whether it's been updated or not. The command it's going to run is here, and the arguments it's going to run are this tcbck with a y all command and an n all. Because we're running those two commands in here, we can see one or other of them will actually give us a complaint. We can also see here, this is where it calls this prerequisite rule as before it actually runs. So if we delete this stanza here, we don't want to check the status of the trusted computer base and have an output, an error and a warning for that. If we delete these lines in here, we have it cleaned up. We deleted that, and I'll save the file. And now we'll action that new rule with aixpert -f. This is running through the same set of rules. We deleted one rule, so now we have 43 rules successfully passed and no failures. Then the nice thing about that is then it's nice and clean. Unexpected errors make it harder to actually be happy that everything worked fine. So we now have a set of rules there at the low level setting that work. Now let's pretend that we're coming back a week later and we wanted to actually check that we still have these rules applied, and so we're going to use aixpert -c, and we're at low level, so we have to type in low. And this is a case in point where it's better to actually check the command on the line. Let's just do that. If you look at the manual pages, you'll find this little bit here is missing, which makes things a little bit more complicated. So we're going to do the check option -l low rules only. And so we can prove that we're still at the security level that we originally assigned. Okay then, so we have our own personal settings file now that we could copy to all of the machines we want to secure. We can run the command to implement that security level, and we can run the aixpert -c to check that level is still intact. Now then, let's clear the decks and show you what would happen if there was a security violation. One of these rules was broken. Now, I looked through those 43 rules, and there's a very simple one for us to quickly test. One of them is password aging, and if we edit this file, etc. security users, and we look for down the bottom max age, we see here that the maximum password age is 52. I think that's 52 weeks, so that's a year. So if we said, well, we get fed up with having to change it every year, and we change this to 500 months instead, and we save that file. If we then run the aixpert command again, we can see there that we've had one failure, and the rule here is low level security and the max age. This number here is actually a special number that goes into the applied log, so it records each time you apply a set of rules. Okay, so we can go back into that file, and change that back to the number that the low level security requires. And we run the security check again. And we have 0 failures, so again we're obeying all the rules for our security level. Okay, in the next demonstration then we're going to go to high level, and I'm told you should either undo the setting of what we've just done, or we can go to the default level. So let's just do that now. We can see as we go to this particular level, it's complaining about a few things. This is because the default level isn't exactly the same as what you get when AIX is freshly installed. Okay, now we could clean those up if we want to do, or we could go to the high level settings. So aixpert Now while it's doing that, I think there is around 123, 123, it's easy to remember, rules for the high level settings, and again we'll get a series of warnings here. We could look up the commands and the parameters to go and have a look at what is involved with those and decide if we really want to fix those problems or delete the rules and create our own security file. Okay, there's 6 rules there we could go and check and either make changes or fix the rules. Now the reason I'm showing this level is for 2 reasons. One is, at this level telnet won't work, so we could actually telnet back into our own machine here to show that. If we do a telnet, machine's called Silver 8. We'll find it absolutely refuses to let us in. The same thing would happen with FTP. Now, one word of warning: when you go to high level security, you can lock out the root user due to password aging. So if you haven't set the root password recently, do so before running the aixpert command. If you get into this situation, we get calls coming in saying, I can't get back into root user. Is there some way I can temporarily turn off security so I can get back in? Of course, that is what's called an oxymoron. If there was a way of temporarily switching off security, then you don't actually have a secure system at all. You will have to reboot in diagnostics mode to get to the file system and single user to actually change the root password, and then you can reboot the machine and get back in. Finally, if you want more information, there is a AIX Advanced Security Features Red Book out there, a good place to get lots more information. That's the end of our movie. I hope that's enough to get you started with aixpert and doing system hardening the AIX way. If you don't do system hardening at the moment, then excellent, just get started. Take your selection of the various levels and harden up your systems. Perhaps make your own selection for the rules and put that file on every machine and run the commands, and then you can monitor them at regular intervals. If you're already doing system hardening, then perhaps a review to see if there's any new tricks in here, and perhaps you can move over from your homegrown system hardening to the system supported way of hardening with aixpert command and make your life easier.